Hey, I'm Harrison, and welcome to the very first video on the Automated Outbound YouTube channel. Pleasure to have you here. And today I'm just going to be going through the typical outbound process that we see a lot of people go through when setting up a bit of a system for themselves for cold email and LinkedIn outreach to win new business. I'm also going to be showing you the strategy that my business partner Ari and I have been using over the past few months to generate some pretty crazy results for ourselves. So if we have a look at some analytics here, just to show you some numbers. Over the space of the past 30 days, we generated 134 conversations. Even over the past week, 33 conversations automatically in the background. And if we have a look at when we first started using this tool and this strategy, I believe it was the 20th of October, but we'll just go a little bit further back just to be safe until today's date, which is the 22nd of December. That's 234 conversations automatically generated in the background for our business. And that's just on my account as well. If we actually have a look at Harry, he's got 246 over the past 3 months and 65 over the past 30 days. And this week alone, 27 conversations. So all up together, we've generated just over 480 conversations basically with our ideal clients in the space of 2 months, which is 240 a month, 60 a week, and 12 a day for a 5-day work week. That's just on LinkedIn alone. We also have been running a bit of cold email as well, and keeping in mind that the industry average reply rate is between 1 to 2%, maybe even 3. Here are some reply rates that we've been generating for ourselves. So anywhere between 12 to 4 to 8 to 12 again, 5 and 9. So about 5-6x industry average reply rates. So just wanted to run through the typical process that we kind of started with and that what we see a lot of people do compared to the strategy that we've refined ourselves and that we're using ourselves. So just wanted to kind of show you that today. Last thing as well, just going through some reply rates on LinkedIn. I'm not sure what the industry average is for LinkedIn. It's quite hard to tell, but as you can see, some pretty crazy reply rates here across our LinkedIn campaigns. I'm not sitting here saying that every single one of these replies is super positive and people asking to book meetings or, saying, yes, I'd love to give you money. I'd love to work with you. Like, you can probably conservatively take off about 5 or 6% off each of these realistically, because you always do get people coming back saying this isn't relevant for me or whatever it might be. The point I'm trying to make is we've got some decent reply rates. The system that we've got implemented is completely automated and just runs in the background for us. So I just wanted to share a bit of that today. So the typical outbound process that we see a lot of people go through and that we kind of went through as well when we first started is setting up your main domain and email address. So the domain being @acme.com, for example, and then the email being harry@acme.com, and then pulling a leads list. And what we did is we went off to recruitment agency owners in the UK between 1 to 10 seats, because there's over 30,000 of them in the UK. So we thought, great, massive TAM, or total addressable market, for us to go after. But then we slowly realized that, there's loads of different types of recruiters: tech, finance, healthcare, education, construction, that type of thing. And then also all of these recruiters all do different things like permanent recruitment, temp, contract, etc. So the point I'm trying to make here is a lot of people just use generic industry filters here and don't typically segment down as much as they need to. This is exactly what we did when we first started. And then typically people then use an AI tool to write their copy, something like ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini, whatever it might be. There's 3 main issues with this. First of all, it throws in things like no fluff, is what you would have seen a lot of the term no fluff, that same terminology in every single email. It throws in the double hyphens. What I mean is something like this, that this was sitting in my spam folder. I'm not going to call out whoever it was. It's not really their fault, but they've clearly used an AI tool to write this because it's got the double dash which they've left in. The reason why this isn't great is because Gmail and Outlook, as of November 2025, last month, they've actually been cracking down on AI writing tools, considering these guys are, trillion-dollar companies and use AI themselves. They're got tech inside of the business that basically identifies and looks at patterns and similarities between loads of different emails, like the billions of emails, however many emails are going through every single day, and it will bucket those with similarities such as this, or certain commonalities between them, and therefore filter you into the spam folder, just like this one. There's no other reason for this to go into my spam, to be honest with you. They had a pretty clean signature. They had a legit email. The subject line's pretty solid. Like the copy's pretty decent, to be fair. It just, my best guess would be because of this, and also mentioning the word GDT. And the third thing as well is that it says lots but nothing at the same time. This email isn't a great example, but if you go into ChatGPT and ask it to write you a email cadence for your business or service or whatever it might be, you'll notice that it says a lot of different things in there, but kind of if you look at it from the bird's eye perspective, you'll notice that it doesn't really say anything meaningful and just throws in loads of different words and terminologies and sentences that don't really make a lot of sense or relate to what you're trying to say in your email. So this often leads to typical workflow of having super generic copy, and copy being the messaging that you're sending in these emails or LinkedIn messages, wherever you're going, and having a bit of a spray and pray approach because of the generic industry filters in the leads list. And a lot of people tend to follow the 7-step touchpoint myth, which I'm sure you've heard of. It's when people say, you need to reach out to someone 7 times before you can expect a reply. We've just found that this isn't true and actually increases the likelihood of you landing in spam or getting marked as spam, because 7 emails is quite a lot to people, and you're more than likely to be marked as spam. And if someone hasn't replied by the 5th or 6th email, then it's probably not relevant for them anyway. A lot of people then send from the main inbox provider, so whoever they set up their emails with, if it's Gmail or Outlook or Yahoo, Hotmail, whatever it is, or a CRM. A lot of people think that CRMs are built for outbound, but they're not. The easy way to tell whether or not a CRM is built for outbound is whether or not it has domain rotation, and if you can see the health score of the domains in there. More often than not, none of them really have this capability. Correct me if I'm wrong, I'm yet to find one. So this typically leads into people unsubscribing you, marking you as spam, and bounce rates being quite high, because there are a few reasons for this. The leads typically aren't verified or enriched properly, and the copy's not amazing, and people can tell it's AI, therefore marking you as spam because it looks like it's pretty low effort. That then compromises your main domain and your sender reputation, and your deliverability starts to tank. This is because you're sending 100 emails per day, usually, from one single account. That's obviously not human behavior, and Google and Microsoft and these trillion-dollar companies will simply flag you as a spam sender. So to zooming out a bit now, we'll go into the next part of the workflow that we typically see, and that is more people then marking you as spam. Your deliverability further tanks, and then what a lot of people do here is just say, we just need more volume. It's a volume game. We need to send more emails, try to crank it up. That just adds fuel to the fire and makes things a lot worse. And then in some cases, you can be blocked or blacklisted. Once that happens, then emails that you're sending to your clients, your team, your customers, friends, family on a one-to-one basis are now also starting to go to spam. And we have heard a few cases of people having to then pay someone to fix it, and sometimes might even lose your website. So all of this inevitably leads you into the result of having poor reply rates / no results. The main reasons for this is because you're landing in spam, you've got poor copy because you use an AI tool to write it, just like everyone else. You've got no warm up on the domains on the mailboxes. You're sending from your primary domain, which is a big no-no according to Gmail and Outlook, for example. You don't really have any systems, and there's no automation involved. So the 3 paths that people typically go down, starting with path 1, is completely giving up and just simply saying, no, cold email doesn't work. It's not for me. It's dead, whatever it is. And relying, or either giving up from there or going down 3 paths from here, which is going down paid ads, which are obviously pretty expensive. Don't get me wrong, they work and they're amazing strategy, but super expensive. Relying on referrals, which as we know can be pretty inconsistent, or word of mouth, and maybe even cold calling, which is super time intensive. And if we're honest, nobody really wants to cold call, which further leads into having minimal results and just completely giving up on cold email altogether. And then path 2 is trying to figure it out yourself. And then you're presented with something like this, with loads of different tools out there, and also loads of different YouTube videos and people with conflicting advice on best subject lines and best time in between messages and what tools to use, all of that kind of thing. So jumping back in here, you will then end up wasting money on tools that you don't actually need. You've got a massive learning curve on these tools as well, because they do take some time to learn. And also, a lot of people tell you to track things like open rates, which is completely wrong. The reason why is because it embeds a tiny little pixel into every single email that you send. And further to my previous point about Gmail and Outlook flagging things like that, it's just going to increase the likelihood of you landing in spam. So a lot of people kind of brag about the open rates that they've got. A few reasons why this is a vanity metric is because if you have a smartphone and you get an email, 9 times out of 10 when you look at your phone now, Gmail or Outlook will automatically scan the email for you and provide you with a preview before unlocking your phone, before jumping into that email about what it's about. That counts as an open. And also tools that a lot of big corporations, companies, and even smaller companies and agencies use these days are malware checkers. And what that does is basically scans every single email that comes into their domain or their inbox and opens it automatically, scans it for malware or any suspicious links or anything like that, or anything spammy, and that will count as an open on your end. So when we first started launching campaigns, we were getting like 60-75% open rates, which were crazy, and we kind of looked into it and we realized that loads of them were just people using these malware software tools or having the preview on their phone. So it is an vanity metric. There's no point tracking it. It doesn't really mean anything. What you want to focus on is reply rate and positive reply rate, and of course deals closed off the back of it. A lot of these tools are also credit based. So like lead finders, for example, are credit based, like Clay, for example, where you waste loads of credits on Clay AI, which I'm sure you guys have heard of. And then that further results in overpaying on tech and domains and mailboxes, etc., and having shiny objects syndrome, which I'm guilty of, and just looking at the next best tool on whatever you want to use. And then path 3 is going down the pay-per-meeting marketing agency. This is because you've either given up on cold email or just super overwhelmed with all of the tools out there, and then you see all these glamorous agencies out there that are saying, oh, you don't have to learn anything, just let us take care of it for you. We're amazing. We'll book you X amount of meetings in X amount of time. And I just want to preface this by saying they 100% work. Like pay-per-meeting, agencies are fantastic. They definitely work. There's some really, really good ones out there. And yeah, they 100% work. However, there are a few things to consider. So first of all, they actually own your system, if you think about it. So all of the IP, all of your data, all of the infrastructure, the leads, copy, replies, domains, mailboxes, knowledge, they basically own all of that. So you never actually own any of this. And the reason why that's a problem is because in my next point here, they can be expensive and have long contracts. So we were quoted £2,000 per month. That's about 2,700 USD per month. And that is quite expensive, if you ask me. Considering the tech that you need to run this is anywhere between £60 to £80 per month, or around $100 just to run it yourself. And typically there's a long contract because it's quite easy for the agency to play on the compounding effects that cold email has. It does have a compounding effect because it gets better and better over time, and you can refine the results over time and add domains and mailboxes and volume, and it just gets better over time. However, that means that the further you get into this partnership with them, if you ever leave, all of this gets taken with them, meaning you're then left from starting from scratch. And let's say the day after you cancel your contract with this agency, which you inevitably would because you wouldn't be with them for the rest of your life, is, let's say, your dream client or one of your biggest clients potentially replies to one of the emails that you had been sending, and you won't see that because they'll shut down everything. They're not going to tell you if that happens. We've had people reply to us, a month, 2 months, 3 months after we've sent out the email, and they turned out to be some of our biggest clients today. The last point that I'm sure you've noticed is pulling rabbits out of hats. What I mean here is that a lot of them will pretend this is all like super complicated and super complex, and you'd never be able to learn it. That's actually what we were said to us. I'm not going to name them, but I found it quite funny. They just said, oh, you'd never be able to learn this on your own. It would take like years. We're like, okay, interesting. We basically did and realized it's not that difficult. So now what we do is show people how to do it and teach people how to do it, so they actually own their system. And then the third point that we've got here is that you're forever relying on someone else and paying money every single time you have a meeting booked, anywhere between $50 to $100 every single time you're having a meeting booked. If you're paying more than that, then you are overpaying. You probably could have booked that meeting yourself. You tend to enter a bit of an awkward back and forth. This is just what we've heard, by the way. But you tend to enter a bit of an awkward back and forth over what a qualified meeting is. We've had loads of chats with loads of different people who say they're using these agencies, and they'll book in meetings with anyone with a pulse, and people either don't rock up to the meetings, they're not qualified prospects, they're not within their ideal customer profile or ICP, and if they don't close the client, then they've completely wasted money by paying the agency X amount for booking that meeting for them. And they've also wasted their time as well. So all of this leads into the Lao Tzu quote, give a man a fish, feed him for a day, teach a man a fish, feed him for a lifetime. So if we zoom out a bit, that is the typical outbound process that we see quite a lot of people go through. in terms of people that we work with and just general conversations, and also pretty similar to our story and how we first started. So I'm now just going to go through a bit of an automated aspect and kind of what we help people with. It starts off the exact same way of setting up your main domain, which might be at acme.com or at vero.com, and then the email address being first name at domain.com. And then from here, instead of just sending from the main domain and pulling leads lists and getting super excited with that, the first step that is pretty critical is setting up multiple domains on a bit of a conveyor belt setup. So I'll explain what that means in just a moment. But as a side note, we do show you where you can buy your domains and mailboxes for about 6 times cheaper than market rate within our free school community, Automated Outbound. So as an example, we've got all of these different domains that we've got set up. So our main domain is at verotalent.com or at vero.com. And then we've got all of these like Get Vero, Vero Tech, Try Vero, Vero Agency, Vero Grow. I'll show you what they all look like now. So here's a few examples. As you can see, my first name and then Get Vero Outbound, Group Vero, Grow with Vero. You've noticed things like .co.uk. That's because we're here in the UK. If you're global, just use .com. If you're in the UK, use .com or .co.uk. Do not use .drop or .io or .ai or anything like that. But I could scroll forever. We've got loads of different ones, all with different names and things like that, all in here. You'll also notice that you can see all of the health scores around 98, 99, or 100% for pretty much every single one. This is what I was talking about before of what you need to see in a CRM provider. If you can't see that, then it's not built for outbound. Simple as that. So all of these mailboxes are sending 15 emails per day. So just to be clear, each domain has 2 mailboxes associated with it. This is the optimal setup essentially. And so you've got 2. So my business partner Harry and I. So I'm Harrison. We've got Harry. We've got 15 emails sending from each of these, and there's 16 mailboxes here, so that's 240 emails every single day compared to the previous setup of 100, so already that's 2.4x. And if you're solo, you can just use, Harry as one of them, and then Harry first dot last name, or Harry then your surname initial. And then we've even seen some people have a fake team member set up in there as well. So if we just run some general maths on this and kind of compare the pair, so we've got 240 emails every single day over 22 working days each calendar month, give or take. It's 5,280 emails firing out every single month. If we look back to our reply rates in here, so we've got 12, 8, 12, 5. We'll go with 8.8 for example, or 8 just to be conservative. So we'll go, so you're looking at an 8% reply rate. That is 422 people coming back to you every single month. Let's be conservative and say half of them are not relevant or tell you to go away or whatever it is. That leaves you with 211 people coming back to you. Let's say half of them are actually qualified and fit your market on who you can actually help. You're then looking at over 105 people. And if we look at, a 20% close rate on those, then you'd be looking at 20 extra deals every single month, essentially purely just from running this outbound. Even if you went at a 10% close rate or made the numbers that I mentioned before a lot more conservative, you'd still be looking at some pretty healthy numbers, all for the sake of running this, which costs anywhere between $80 to $100 every single month and requires minimal effort when set up correctly. So what needs to happen from here is all of these domains and mailboxes need to go through a warm-up stage. This typically takes about 2 weeks. The reason for this is because you can't send straight away. They do need to warm up. They are brand new, and we can basically show you how all of that works. So once they're warming up, you can focus on 3 things. First of all, copy, which is, in my opinion, probably the most important piece, the messaging that you're saying in the emails. Just a couple tips here. Don't use AI. Just don't. We've tried it, use loads of different AI tools and that type of thing. It just doesn't perform well. It statistically performs a lot worse compared to just sending super standard, clear, to the point copy. When you use AI openers and fancy things like that of, hey, saw you posted this blog 3 years ago. Hey, saw you just got a funding round, whatever it is, like, people know at the end of the day, this is a hill that I will die on. Just please don't use AI. Happy to have a conversation around this with anyone to kind of talk through it. But we've tried every single tool out there. We've just realized it's just not worth it. The main reasons being what I just mentioned, as well as it adds complexity to your emails. It decreases the authenticity of your emails or the copy. it massively implodes your tech stack because you do need an AI tool that's going to be doing the research on each prospect. And a side note of that, if there's no research or not much available about the person you're reaching out to, then it's going to go deeper and deeper and further back into that person's history. Like, not many people keep super up to date with their personal life or their work life on LinkedIn, for example, which is the primary indicator of where they look at. So if the AI tool can't find anything on their personal profile, it will then look at the company profile and find anything it can and just go way back. And an example that we have is, I think it quoted like a podcast someone was on about 16 years ago or something like that in the AI opener. The person replied to saying, hey, this is like clearly AI. It's not very impressive, to be honest. And we just kind of thought, yeah, this is just a bit silly. So it employs your tech stack, which obviously means that's more expensive. A lot of them are credit-based as well. You're more likely to land in spam because it will throw in the double dashes as well, because keep in mind, it is an AI tool. It rarely makes sense as well if you actually read what's going out, especially on bulk. It rarely flows into what you're saying. Like, it'll be, hey, saw you grew the team by 3 people last quarter. Anyway, we can build you an AI, or we can build you an automated system that does this. It just doesn't really flow into what you're actually trying to say. What we found is we were actually super nervous about what it was saying as well. And it was kind of like, we're having to check every email that goes out before it goes out, which defeats the purpose of automated outbound, right? If you are super critical on this, I would just recommend using Spintax instead. Spintax is simply when it just swaps out 1 or 2 words. For example, hi first name will swap out to hey first name, or good morning, good afternoon, depending on the time of day, or the call to action would swap out. Happens automatically. Or certain variances in the email body. Can show you guys how to do that if you need help with that as well. So a couple final tips is just use our frameworks that we provide in the school community, and we can also help you one-on-one with this. So the next thing you can work on while the domains and emails are warming up is the leads. And instead of using the generic industry filters that we looked at before, we can help you one-on-one with this, of what we use to find leads. And on top of that, a couple of steps that a lot of people don't do is proper enrichment. So finding the person's email address and company name and first name and that type of thing, and cleaning it up, and also verifying them. So verifying through tools that will ensure that the emails don't bounce, because every single time an email bounces, that just kind of raises suspicion on Gmail and Outlook, and that type of thing will further increase the likelihood of you landing in spam and getting blocked or blacklisted, all of that type of thing. So you want as many emails as possible going through. Cool. So yeah, we can help you with that one-on-one and ensure that you don't waste credits. The third thing is that you can set up LinkedIn, which I'm going to make a separate video about. But the reason for this is because there's no warm-up required. It takes less than an hour, or probably less, to be honest, to set up. Has much higher response rates. For example, here's some reply rates, just again to show you. This is all LinkedIn. So yeah, like 35, 27, 16, 34 there, 32. Yeah. So it's much higher reply rates than email. Also can result in some inbound leads, gives you that multi-channel approach, and also grows your network at the same time, because the tool that we show you how to use automates connection requests to your ICP, which means you'd be growing your network automatically, and more people would be seeing your profile, which can lead to inbound leads, which is pretty cool. Cool. So once all that's done and everything's warmed up, you're able to launch, which means you're then just looking to gather data as quickly as possible, like replies and what sectors are replying the most, the job titles that you're getting best responses on, locations, and double down on what's working and tweak what's not. Book meetings, of course. Build a bit of a pre-call process to build the trust, which we can help you with, and also, of course, close deals. From there, it's just a matter of scaling with more domains, more mailboxes, better copy, and working one-on-one with us if you'd like to maximize results. So just looking at the pros and cons of this option, is that you actually own your system, you build a compounding asset for your business, you actually learn something cool that compounds more over time. You never really have to pay an agency booking fees or success fees. You do avoid that awkward back and forth we spoke about, skip the learning curve, save money on domains, mailboxes, and tech through our providers, because we basically show you how to replicate our setup, which is the most cost-effective and efficient option. Don't waste money on tools you don't need. You're also in an awesome community of people learning, growing, and making money with this, and you learn about updates. For example, most recently, Gmail introduced an update, meaning that you have to drop sending to 15 emails per mailbox going forward. This used to be 30, so they've halved that, and people that don't know about that will just increase the likelihood of landing in spam folders. You'll also save money on things like paid ads and don't have to worry about referrals or word of mouth or cold calling, and give yourself that consistent pipeline. You'll also cruise past everyone who says outbound doesn't work or cold email doesn't work. You've also got access to Harry and I one-to-one coaching to accelerate and maximize results. Whatever the cons of this is, it's not done for you. We're not going to do anything for you. The reason for this is because you do need to learn and put in the hours to actually own the asset. And it also takes a bit of time. So yeah, I hope that helps. To zooming out, we've got the typical outbound process that we see, and then the automated outbound process, which is a lot more efficient and a lot more effective long term. So hope that helps. Got a link in the description. I'll figure out how to do that for this of the school community that we've got if you like any further help or support. Thank you.